Hello, and welcome to my presentation called Don't Sugarcoat It. Today I will be presenting on healthy eating for type 1 diabetics heading off to college, which is you. So my name is Caitlin Garmer. I currently have a Bachelor's of Science degree in biology with emphasis in pre-medicine and a minor in business management. And I am currently a Master's of Science in Applied Nutrition candidate at the University of New England with an expected graduation date of summer of 2020. And some of my previous work experience includes work as a caregiver, where I did meal planning and preparation for the elderly, as well as the HOSA Future Health Professionals Vice President. So that included doing a education seminar on healthy eating for pregnant teenagers and how to increase their nutrient intake while pregnant. So some objectives of today's presentation are to recognize the importance of healthy eating and how it can impact your diabetes and food is digested in your system, to read nutrition labels and identify healthy choices based on the information in nutrition labels, identify healthy options from a wide variety of options available, and describe how to choose healthy food options at dining places on campus, and also demonstrates increased confidence in your ability to make healthy choices with a wide variety of options. So first, I'm going to have you do a dietary self-assessment of the last 24 hours and recall all the food that you've eaten in the past 24 hours. So when you're done with your food recall, we're going to divide each thing into their own category. So on the side there, you have whole grains, fruits, vegetables, fats, and sugars. So take what you've eaten this past 24 hours and put it into its category, and I can help you if you're not sure.
Is Frosted Flakes whole grain sugar?
I would put Frosted Flakes in the grain category.
In the grain category, okay. And then, where does milk go? Fats?
Oh, I did forget a dairy box. So at the bottom, you can go ahead and put that in the dairy.
Sick. And then a ham sandwich falls under what?
You can put ham sandwich under proteins, which should be at the bottom. And that would also fall under grains because of the bread.
All right.
Did you have cheese on the sandwich?
I most certainly did.
You can put that in the dairy category.
And then where do chips go? Is that?
I would put chips under the fats.
All right. And a fettuccine alfredo.
That would fall into grains, fats, dairy. What else did you have with the fettuccine?
Some delicious garlic bread.
That would fall into our grain category. Probably not whole grains. I probably should have put that as carbohydrates.
And then Takis. Would that be under fats?
That would be under fats.
That was my snack of the day.
Some more chips.
They're not chips, they're Takis. That's different. Not really, but they taste better.
Are you all done?
I am finished. Do I need to put my name on this?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
So let's take a look. All right, I noticed you have no fruits or vegetables. So how do you feel about your 24-hour recall?
This makes me take a hard look at my life and realize I need some dietary changes. I mean, 0 fruits, 0 vegetables. It's just not good for me.
Pretty low on protein, too. So
yeah, I could have, added some chicken to the fettuccine or something, but chicken's expensive.
Making some good changes. Well, let's keep this here, and I'll go ahead and talk a little bit more about a whole diet. The main nutrients we should be consuming are fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains, protein, fats and sugars, and milk and dairy products. So Our main consumption or main diet for healthy eating for diabetics should be healthy carbohydrates and fiber-rich foods. So this will include fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, and low-fat dairy products. And then good fat options. So this should be salmon, tuna, mackerel, avocados, nuts, and olive oils. So these are going to be natural fats that you find within your foods versus added fats that you might find in fast foods or more processed foods. And you might be consumed or confused on why some of these are under carbohydrates. Pretty much any like fruit which contains sugar, that would be considered carbohydrates. So we'll go into this a little bit more further into the presentation, but yeah, this is a good basis for a healthy diet. So for food being broken down in a type 1 diabetic system, so first you're going to ingest the food and it's going to begin to be broken down in your mouth. But once you swallow and it goes to your stomach will convert your food to glucose, which is sugar. The glucose will then enter the bloodstream, and the pancreas at this point is supposed to release insulin, which is going to help control your blood sugar levels. But unfortunately, in a type 1 diabetic, your body will not release the insulin. This is why you manually have to give it. So instead, the glucose is unable to enter the body effectively, which is going to raise your blood sugar levels. So why whole foods? Whole foods can help control blood glucose levels easier. When you have a diet high of fast foods and processed sugar, your body is just going to break those down into sugar because they're highly processed, they're very simple, whereas whole foods are higher in fiber and nutrients. It takes the body a little bit longer to break it down, which is going to raise your blood sugar levels slowly versus a rapid spike in blood sugar levels. Whole grains can actually lower blood glucose and reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. This is because they are higher in fiber, they are healthier, they can actually help bring down your blood sugar. Low glycemic index foods raise blood sugar levels less than high glycemic index foods. So you might be confused on what the glycemic index is. The glycemic index is essentially how much sugar is in your food. So foods that are going to be lower on the glycemic index are going to be your vegetables, some less ripe fruit. So if you were to eat a green banana versus a yellow banana, a green banana is going to have less sugar and will be lower on the glycemic index. And fiber can also help reduce the glycemic index load. So your glycemic index load will be your carbohydrates minus the amount of fiber. So what a healthy plate should look like. Most of you guys have probably seen myplate.gov. You probably have seen what a healthy plate ideally would look like. So in the case of a type 1 diabetic, you should be consuming half your plate of non-starchy vegetables. So this is going to be your leafy greens, this is going to be broccoli, spinach, kale, anything that is not like a potato or corn. These are going to be starchy. These are going to be a little bit higher on the glycemic index. Lean protein, this would be your chicken, your fish. You could do a leaner cut of beef, like a flank steak. You're going to want to try and avoid some of those higher fat beefs, such as prime rib, ribeye, but I know being on a college budget, that might be easy to do. And then your whole grains. This is should be a fourth of your plate. This is going to be your quinoa. It's going to be your brown rice. This could be where you have starchy vegetables. So if you want to have some potatoes or you want to have some corn, this would be a good area to put it in. You're also going to want to drink a lot of water. But if water's not your favorite, you want a different drink, you could do a cup of low-fat or non-fat milk, or and that could be your serving of dairy, or you want to try and avoid sodas, fruit juices, any of those are going to have added sugars, and they're pretty processed. So you want to try and avoid those. But including a serving of fruit with your meal is a great option. You could have an apple, you could have a bowl of berries, and include good fats in a small amount. So if you want to cook your broccoli in olive oil or add a little olive oil onto your fish, that is a great option. Counting carbohydrates. So why is this important? Carbohydrates break down into glucose. So we want to kind of monitor how many carbohydrates we're taking in, because this will spike your blood sugar. So counting carbs helps keep your glucose levels normal. Carbohydrates, as I just mentioned, do break down into glucose in the bloodstream. About 45 to 65% of your total carbohydrates, or your total calories, should be carbohydrates. So as a diabetic, it is probably best if you keep closer to 45%, but this does give you some flexibility. So if you are, going to go out and celebrate and you're going out to eat, then having the flexibility to maybe eat some more carbohydrates while, maybe some of your other meals are lower in carbohydrates. Carbohydrates contain 4 calories per gram. So if we look over at this picture, counting how many calories are in something that has 35 grams of carbohydrates, you would do 35 times 4, so it would come out to about 140. As you can see, fat has 9 calories and protein has 4 calories as well. And your carbohydrate intake should be spread out throughout the day. So you don't want to be eating a super high carbohydrate meal and then not eating them the rest of the day, or loading up at the end of the day, because it's going to spike your blood sugar. You want to kind of maintain it throughout the day. All right, a nutrition label. So I know most of you guys have seen these. They're on every single food packaging, but they can be kind of confusing on how to read them. So if we're going to take a look at this, as you can see, this particular item has 8 servings per container, but a serving is 2/3 of a cup. So when we're looking at everything past that, this is going to be for 1 serving. So the calories are going to be 230 for 2/3 of a cup of whatever this nutrition label is for. So the main things we want to take a look at are total fat, your total carbohydrates, and your protein. So your total fat is 8 grams. The 2 you want to watch out for are saturated fat and trans fat. These are not the good kinds of fats. So you want to try and keep these as low as possible and avoid them as much as you can. Your total carbohydrates. So this is what we were just talking about, counting your carbohydrates. So this has 37 grams with 4 grams of fiber. So when we're looking at our glycemic load, we take the 37 when we minus the 4 to get our glycemic load. And then your protein. Your protein is obviously very important. This is what's going to help you feel full. Things we want to watch out for, as I mentioned, the saturated and the trans fat. You're going to watch out for cholesterol. You don't want to go over more than 200 milligrams per day. So you want to make sure you're keeping an eye out at how much cholesterol is in your food. And your total sodium. Typically, prepackaged food is very high in sodium. So you want to watch out and try not to consume more than 2,300 milligrams a day. When you're eating out, I know that can be difficult because a lot of restaurants add salt to their foods. One option to avoid this is to ask them to not salt your foods, or just keep in mind that you might be consuming more sodium later, so try and watch it earlier in the day. So making healthy choices. I'm going to pass out a nutrition label, and we are going to read those and mark up what the important things are to look out for. Okay, so next we're going to look at a nutrition facts label. So here I have some nice colored pins for you. So using the green pin, I would like you to go ahead and circle total fats. Very nice. And using the blue pin, why don't you go ahead and circle total carbohydrates. And using the purple pen, why don't you go ahead and circle total proteins. And next to total protein, why don't you go ahead and write over here? Why don't you write 30%? And going up to total carbs, write about 45%. And going up to total fats, you can go ahead and put about 25%. So this is about how much of your everyday diet you want of each of these. Now, using the pink pen, go ahead and circle the serving size and the servings per container. So what you really want to be aware of is the serving size and making sure you're only consuming about 1 serving. And then circle calories. So in a little bit, we're going to go through and calculate what our daily recommended intake is. And so we will know how many calories we should be consuming each day. So you should be aware of that. And making sure you know how many calories are in the food you're eating. And you can go ahead and circle dietary fiber. And off to the side, let's go ahead and write total carbohydrates. You could do total carb. I'm going to do it over here. Minus fiber equals glycemic load. So this is how you can tell what your glycemic load is for what you're eating and how much it will affect your blood sugar. Meal timing is very important. I know as college students, you guys tend to get busy. You might skip breakfast, you might forget to bring lunch, but maintaining constant meals throughout the day is important to maintaining blood sugar. So regular meal times help regulate blood glucose and your insulin dosage. You need to allow time for your insulin to be effective. I know you guys have probably been taking insulin for a while, but it's important that when you eat regular meals, you allow time for you to take your dose of insulin and allow it to kick in and not, consume a ton right before bed, take insulin and go to sleep. This could end up resulting in hypoglycemia, along with if you skip meals, you might hit hypoglycemia or low blood sugar, which many of you guys know how dangerous that can be, you guys. So it's important to avoid the risk of slipping into hypoglycemia. So I have a couple different nutrition labels up here. These are to compare some healthy options for you so you can kind of get used to reading them and see the difference in calories and some different foods you might consume. So this one compares fruit. This is a medium-sized apple versus a medium-sized banana. Now, if we look at this nutrition label, the medium-sized apple has about 70 calories, 0 fat, 0 cholesterol, 0 sodium, 19 grams of carbohydrates with 3 grams of total fiber, and 14 grams of sugar. So it's not too bad. Your glycemic load would be about 16 grams. Whereas you look at a banana, a medium-sized banana has about 110 calories, 0 fat, 0 sodium. It's a great source of potassium. So it has 450 milligrams of potassium. But this total carbohydrate is 30 grams. With 3 grams of dietary fiber and 19 grams of sugar. So a little bit higher in sugar, your total glycemic load is going to be about 27 grams. So it's a little bit higher. Not saying avoid bananas, but just know if you're eating a meal that might be a little bit higher in sugar or a little bit higher on the glycemic index, to maybe not pick a banana as your fruit option, but an apple might be a better choice. Whereas if you're running out of the house, you're not going to eat a full breakfast, a banana would be an okay option to take with you. Quinoa, brown rice, and pasta. As you can see, the serving sizes are very different. So for the pasta, we're going to have to multiply everything by 3. But in taking a look at this, quinoa for 185 grams has about 220 calories, 4 grams of fat, 13 milligrams of sodium. Your total carbohydrate is about 39 grams with 5 grams of dietary fiber. So your glycemic load would be about 34 grams. But the quinoa has about 8 grams of protein. So it is a sustainable protein source. Brown rice for 195 grams has about 218 calories. It has 2 grams of fat, 2 milligrams of sodium. It has 46 total carbohydrates with 4 grams of dietary fiber. So this makes it your glycemic load about 42 grams. So it is higher, less protein at 5 grams. That's something to consider. Brown rice is still a better option than white rice because white rice is very refined, but it is a little bit higher on the glycemic index. So just something to be aware of. Pasta, if you multiply this out, your serving size is going to be at about 170 grams. Your total calories will be about 225 grams, with your total carbohydrates at 42 grams. There's no dietary fiber in pasta. Does have a little bit of cholesterol, something to keep in mind. And your protein, it does have a decent amount of protein at about 9 grams, but again, your carbohydrates are going to be higher. It is typically a little bit more processed, so it wouldn't necessarily be the best option. In this case, I would recommend choosing the quinoa. Now, yogurts. So this is going to be a non-fat Greek yogurt, and this is your traditional Yoplait yogurt with the red lid and the fun cups. We all grew up eating it. Looking at the nutrition label for Greek yogurt, one container is about 80 calories. It's got 0 fat, 0 cholesterol, 60 milligrams of sodium, only 5 grams of total carbohydrates. No fiber, but only 4 grams of sugar and 15 grams of protein. So this would be a great option for breakfast if you're running out of the house or running out of the dorm room. Looking at a container of Yoplait yogurt, it has 150 calories, 2 grams of fat, 1 gram of saturated, 10 milligrams of cholesterol, and 95 milligrams of sodium, with 25 total carbohydrates and 18 grams of sugar. So very high in sugar. This is going to increase your blood glucose levels significantly, and only 6 grams of protein. So not really a good sustainable source of protein, would not be our best option. So how do you prepare healthy foods in a dorm room? I lived in a dorm room. I know how difficult that can be. So here are some healthy ideas. So for quick snacks, an apple slice with 2 tablespoons of peanut butter is a great option. You want to go with a more natural peanut butter. So we just looked at nutrition labels. You can read the nutrition labels. Also, right underneath nutrition labels are the ingredients. And typically, if you do a more processed peanut butter, it's going to have added sugar. It's going to have some added sodium. If you pick a natural peanut butter, it's usually just peanuts and maybe some oil. So that's something to be aware of when you're picking out a peanut butter. 1/4 cup unsalted mixed nuts. This is a serving size of nuts. It's going to be close to 200 calories, but it's a great source of protein. And by picking unsalted, you watch the sodium levels. So salted nuts are going to have added sodium, just something to be aware of. Chia seed pudding with blueberries. If you've never had chia seed pudding, it is a nice little treat. You basically take a tablespoon of chia seeds and mix it with your favorite type of milk, whether it's dairy milk or non-dairy, and you let it sit for about an hour. The chia seeds absorb the liquid, so it turns into a pudding consistency. It's a great source of fiber, and it's great with some blueberries if you need a little added sweetness. Carrot sticks with hummus. Air popped popcorn. This is again another great source of fiber, but it also, by doing your own air pop popcorn, you avoid the salt and the added flavoring that bagged popcorn might have, and it's super easy to do. You just do a tablespoon of popcorn in a bowl and microwave it. You can add a little bit of melted coconut oil to substitute butter and a little bit of salt if you need some flavoring on it. And then 1/2 cup of low-fat cottage cheese with strawberries. I know cottage cheese isn't everyone's favorite, but if you do like it, it is a nice salty snack, and the strawberries add a good sweetness to it, so you can do kind of a salty and sweet mix. So healthy meals on the go. Again, I know you guys are often running off to school, so easy, quick meals that you can make in the dorm room. A microwave egg or egg whites with tomatoes and spinach. So you can quickly microwave eggs by scrambling them in a mug and microwave them for about a minute. Stir them and keep going till they're fully cooked. Or if you're not a huge fan of whole egg, you can do just egg whites. There's not really a huge difference unless your doctor might tell you have higher cholesterol. You can avoid the yolks, but the yolks provide great nutrients as well. And mixing them with tomato and spinach adds a great source of vegetables. Do-it-yourself burrito bowl is a great option for a healthy meal in your dorm room, whether you do this on a lunch break. This one might take a little bit more time, but if you use pre-cooked quinoa or pre-cooked pre-cooked brown rice, and or you could even use cauliflower rice if you're trying to avoid the carbohydrates, and you heat that up, add in some black beans, which you can buy in a can, sour cream, but if I were doing it, I would use Greek yogurt. It's a great substitute and a little bit healthier. A little bit of avocado, and then if you need another protein source, you could add some shredded chicken. Buying a rotisserie chicken from the grocery store at Costco is a great option to just shred and put on top. Quick and easy and cheap to do in a dorm room. Mason jar salads are an awesome to-go meal. So basically you take a mason jar, you put the dressing at the bottom, and then you put your thicker ingredients at the bottom so they don't get soggy. So chickpeas, olives, and then you layer it up. And then when you're ready to eat it, you just shake it up and take it to go. So you can make your favorite salad in a mason jar. And then a Thai mango salad with chicken is another great option, and I'm actually going to do a little cooking demonstration to show you how to make that. A green Thai mango salad. Now, it's a pretty quick and easy prep. It should take about 10 minutes. You can prep it ahead of time, or you can prep it the day of. So first you start with 2 green mangoes. Now, I've already peeled these, but you want to make sure they're nice and green, because when they're green, they have they're not quite as ripe, so they're lower on the glycemic index. And so you want to make sure they're firm and green. And then you go ahead and shred them using the larger side of the shredder. And you're going to use 2 of them. Now, the shredder's a little tiny. This grater's a little tiny. But we'll go ahead and shred. Now, when you're cooking, it's pretty flexible. So you can go ahead, and if you want to make a bigger batch, you can double this recipe or keep it small so you can have it for a couple meals throughout the week. Also, remember, mangoes have a giant seed in the middle, so you're not going to be able to go straight through. So just grate until you feel some resistance and then roll it around. But you'll want it about this size. Keep it pretty medium. Throw it into the bowl. Now, I'm going to keep grating. The mangoes can be a little bit red in color too. Again, very flexible. The key to this is getting them as firm as possible so they don't turn to juice when you're shredding them, and to keep them lower on the glycemic index. So you can see this little bit of white right here is the seed in the middle. So you want to make sure you don't include that into your salad. It's going to get a little tough and a little hard to eat. So just grate around the seed. And for this cooking demonstration, I'm only going to do 1 mango, but obviously the recipe calls for 2. But to save time, I will stick with just doing 1. So you'll go ahead and add the mango to the bowl. And then this recipe calls for 2 cups of bean sprouts, which you can buy prepackaged at the grocery store for about $2. So this is a very budget-friendly meal, along with a healthy meal, because you're using all fruits and vegetables. You also are going to use 1 cup of unsweetened coconut. You can toast this if you want, if you have a hot plate, but if not, then just leave it plain. And you'll go ahead and add that to the bowl. And then it calls for spring onions, and you want to use about 5 of them. Go ahead and cut the ends off with the roots. And these are already, I washed these already. So you want to make sure you wash them because they are usually dirty when you buy them. And then you just want to chop them up nice and fine. Watching out for your fingers the entire time. And the nice thing about this recipe, like I mentioned, is it's flexible. So if you don't like onion, don't add the onion in. If you want to add in, you know, spinach, bell peppers, you can pretty much do whatever you want. You can add protein, you can leave it just as a salad. Go ahead and throw those in. Another nice fresh herb to add is cilantro. I'm gonna go ahead and add basil because that's what I had on hand today, but cilantro would give it a nice fresh taste as well. So you just, again, finely chop the herbs to release the flavor. With the basil, the stems are kind of thick, so I'll go ahead and avoid using those, but if you chop it nice and fine, it releases the aroma. I'll go ahead and mix that in. So I'll go ahead and use my hand to toss it. And again, this is missing a mango. So normally you would have 2 mangoes in here, but to save the time and energy, I've only shredded 1. So I'll mix that up. And then let me wash my hands and we will go ahead and make up the dressing for that. So the dressing is very simple and usually ingredients you have on hand. So you'll go ahead and take soy sauce and red pepper, and you can use Thai chili flakes, but typically I don't have those on hand, and or Thai chili sauce, but I'm just gonna use red pepper flakes. So I picked the low sodium soy sauce, the less sodium, keep an eye out for that. And you're gonna go ahead and add 4 tablespoons. All right, 4 tablespoons of that. And then 1/4 cup of lime juice. I bought the bottled lime juice to save time from juicing it. But again, you can use fresh limes. And these are all very reasonably priced ingredients, so it won't break the bank to buy them, which as college students I know is a necessary factor in meal prep. And then it calls for 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. Now I'm going to go ahead and use the brown sugar because I haven't experimented with other options, but honey would probably be a great substitute since this is more of an Asian inspired salad. Honey would blend well with the flavors, but it's also based off taste preference. So totally up to what you want to mess with. Just remember when using added sugar to be mindful of how much glucose you're adding. And then the last ingredient is red pepper flakes. This is a very flexible amount depending on how spicy you like things. I'm gonna do 1/2 teaspoon, but you can add more or less. I don't mind spice too much, so I'm gonna add a little bit more. I would start with less and work your way up to it, just because if you're not used to spice, it could end up being pretty spicy. So I'll go ahead and whisk it all together with a fork, get the flavors all combined. And if you're gonna eat it now, you add the dressing onto it now. If you're gonna eat it later, you would go ahead and hold off, or else it'll make it soggy. But you'll go ahead and pour the dressing over the top. I'm only gonna add about half since I don't have all my ingredients in here yet. Kind of toss it together. And there is your Thai mango salad. You can go ahead and add protein onto it. So if you wanted to get shredded chicken, you wanted to add tofu, or if you wanted to add a piece of grilled fish on top for protein, and you'd have a complete meal, or it makes a great snack or side, depending on what you would like. So how to create a healthy meal plan. So I'm gonna have you guys do a 1-day meal plan, but just some tips. Make half your plate veggies, like I showed you on the My Plate earlier. Include a whole grain, so you get a healthy carbohydrate. Add in a lean protein, whether this is chicken, you could do boiled eggs, you could do beans, that could be a great source of protein. Avoid extra fat, so try and avoid adding olive oil to every single meal, but if you do want to use it as a dressing on your salad, that is a good option. Include a non-fat dairy. You don't have to have dairy at every meal, but at least make sure you have it at 1, if not 2 meals a day. And use healthy options to fulfill your sweet tooth. So whether it's fresh fruit, some dark chocolate, something that's a little bit lower in sugar or has the natural sugar will be your best bet. And make small changes. So don't go from eating completely, maybe things I've talked about on this presentation. Maybe you don't eat most of these. Don't try to suddenly eat them all. Try and make small changes and just incorporate healthier options here and there. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass out the template and you guys can go ahead and make your 1-day meal plan. I'm gonna have you create a 1-day meal plan. So now that we've gone over what a healthy diet looks like, you can kind of create what you think a healthy meal would look like throughout the day. So go ahead and do a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and maybe a couple healthy snack options. Okay, now that you've created your 1-day meal plan, we are gonna look at your daily recommended intakes and a macronutrient calculator. So on your phone, go ahead and pull up this website and we're gonna put in all of our information and see kind of what your daily recommended intake is, and we'll write down what they recommend for your macronutrients, your micronutrients, or mostly your macronutrients are gonna be what we focus on. And then on your phone, I'll go ahead and have you pull up the bodybuilding website so we can calculate out macronutrients. Go do that, blah, blah, blah. So now that we've looked at our 1-day meal plan, we're gonna compare our food recall and our meal plan and take some time kind of comparing the two and see where your diet might lack so far and how your meal plan can change that. Okay, so taking a look at your daily recommended intake, it suggests that you should consume about 2,500 calories a day. And with about 275 grams of carbohydrates, about 71 grams of protein, and about 69 to 120 grams of fat. I would put that towards the lower end. And yeah, about 70 grams. That sounds about right. So, and looking at that, that's kind of what you want to try and maintain on a daily basis. So when you are doing your meal planning, trying to stay around that range is ideal. Now that we've seen kind of some of the deficits in our diet and seen where we can improve on, we're going to do a goal setting exercise. So in setting the goals, you want to set goals that you can stick to. You don't want to, set these unrealistic goals that when you don't reach them, you feel defeated. But instead, you want to try and set goals that are gradual changes that you can incorporate into your life. In this room, hopefully you can find an accountability partner that can keep you accountable. Maybe you guys can exchange numbers and check in with each other every once in a while. Keep your goals reasonable. Don't try and set a goal to lose 5 pounds a week for the next 6 weeks, because that is a very unrealistic goal. But keep something reasonable that you can reach. Make sure it's something you can track. So whether it is weight loss or whether it is, making sure you don't skip breakfast every day, but instead eat breakfast, 3 times a week, or try not to eat ice cream 3 days a week or something along those lines, something that you can easily track. And write down your goals and share them with someone. So thank you for your time. Are there any questions or concerns based on the information and the activities? Yes.
I had a question. So when on the nutrition label it says something like 14 grams of sugar with 10 grams of added fat,
yes,
or added sugar, do we add the 10 to the 14, or is that already factored in?
So your total sugars are including the added sugar. So you don't have to add the 10 to the 14. So your total sugars will be 14. But just recognize that 10 grams of that is added sugar, with only 4 grams being sugar already in the food. So they have added 10 extra grams of sugar into it. So just something to be aware of.
And are added sugars any worse than regular sugars? Is the sugar they're adding different in any way, or is it the same?
That's a great question. So typically added sugar is worse. So for example, your fruit is going to have natural sugars that it produces naturally, and your body recognizes those differently, versus added sugars, your body recognizes them as added sugars. So it's going to treat them differently, and it's going to spike your blood glucose levels a lot quicker and a lot more dramatically versus natural sugars.
So as diabetics, we should be avoiding added sugars more than just regular sugars?
Yes. Ideally, you would want to be more aware of added sugars, because that is going to be a bigger factor in spiking your blood glucose levels. Whereas natural sugars, while you don't want to consume a huge amount of sugar, natural sugars are going to do a more gradual increase of your blood glucose. Awesome. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation and learned a little bit today.